Hey everybody, welcome back to Stoneface Reactions. I'm Griffin, that's Theta, and we're here watching a little bit more Vinland Saga. We're on the final episode today of Season 2. And we got some comments to go over, so let's see what people got to say as we're wrapping on up here. We got Reaganmocker175 with a very long comment here. We're going to go ahead and put that up on the screen, and we're going to go ahead and talk about it. So I'll probably hit you up first, Theta. What do you think about it? What's your focus here?
Well, I mean, it's all about the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the main bit. Well, I guess that's the antithesis of the entire comment. I guess the antithesis is that guy on the right is wrong. But I assume that the pointer finger here is more towards look at the evolution of the character, right? And what it means to the story, or rather the full narrative of the show. I don't know the full narrative of the show because we have enough content to make another 2 seasons out of, let's say, the narrative of the show for the first 2 seasons.
Right. The stuff that we got here, which is basically Thorfinn wasting his life very demonstratively showing like how violence makes you a terrible person, as they say, and then his 4-year recovery of realizing that's all terrible, I'd rather be a constructive individual and do my best.
I just feel like there's an element. I guess this is going to be my broad spectrum hand wave to all the other comments that wanted to say that I was wrong.
Sure.
That other anime, I have to compare it other anime. That other anime make the same kind of story comment, like Gundam is full of this, right? That we have to understand one another to live in a world without war or violence or that sort of thing. Well, I feel like other shows do this in a way that doesn't promote such a self-destructive behavior. Because at the end of the day, you're proposing a better world built on the back of your own body. Which I guess is a good way to look at it, because you do want your own hard work. What did we say last time? Protestants? Goddamn, I'm looking this way again. Protestants, right?
Are the Protestant stuff, the WASPs, who are just like, yes, work yourself to death. Working yourself to death is good.
Right. And at some point, you have to think about your own health and safety amongst the world you're trying to build. Because if you encourage everybody to do the thing that kills them, at the end of the day, your better world is going to be no different from the world that's created by the war that you're trying to avoid. It's full of dead, unhappy people. So I guess
you first.
Canadian standoff.
All right then. Well, I'll go ahead. You brought up other anime, and it's like I think I like this one because like it shows like a lot of dealing with that reality and the full steps of getting to like that mental state of like you want to have peace, right? Otherwise, you're dealing with this. A lot of other anime like pays lip service to it because it's maybe not their real focus. They're like making a show and fight anime. It's never going to be about stopping the violence, right? Gundam does a pretty good job because it's primarily focused on like being a war story in most of its media forms, you would say, right? It wants to have this anti-war message at the very least, which is highly transitive. The only problem though is that when we look at this media or any of the other media, there's a quote, I don't remember by who, but it's effectively to the tune of every anti-war movie is also a pro-war movie, because at some point you have to show the war and someone's going to look and say that violence is really cool.
You don't actually have to show the war. I think Terminator does a fairly good job of showing you that the war kind of sucked. And it never fucking shows...
everyone who walks away from Terminator is like, it is awesome, right?
Well, they never show the war, though. They're talking about the shit about in the modern day with the fucking Terminator.
But Terminator's also not an anti-war movie. That's a terrible...
I think you kind of find that it is an anti-war movie. It's also an anti-AI movie. It's like... But yeah, I mean, the bits we're shown of the future is fucking terrible. People, like, living in squalor and, like, hovels
but they got
trying
robots
to survive.
And lasers.
You never see it, though. I'm just answering the point that an anti-war movie doesn't have to show you the war to let you know that how horrible things are. And also, a lot of these Gundam things, even though we're taking place in a war, by the time we're watching the show, how many of them have had great wars before the show started that we're constantly like, oh, I'd like to see that, and we never do.
But you understand the point of it is like the giant robots are cool, the lasers are cool, the Vikings fighting each other are cool, the
Griffin, we've gotta
swordsmanship in
fucking
martial
sell
arts is
toys. What do
cool.
you want?
I know. Well, I mean, obviously, I want a peaceful world, but
Well, maybe you don't want your anti-war narrative in a toy shill, right? Because
but
your
but
point
this is
is, what do
ultimately
kids find cool? We can't show that.
look, I got a Bible in my Happy Meal. But this is all like in
John
response to
Smith from the
like
Disney movie, right? You probably did get a Bible in your Happy Meal.
but this is in response to you saying like what was it earlier? Living in the world and the practicalities of it. I feel like Vinland Saga has a good laser focus on what it wants to be about and puts in a lot of things around that and doesn't necessarily try to soften the blow of the real world. I think it has done a very good job.
The hilarity of all this to me right now is that, just to cover everybody who might not understand this, here the last episode is that I've rearranged my whole setup here. Right now, I have to look up and center if I want to keep eye focus on the camera. Up and center on the middle screen is the overlay, which means I'm staring down Askeladd every time I want to look at the camera. And do you think Askeladd would deal with any of this shit? Askeladd would slap Thorfinn in the face and tell him to wake the fuck up. Even the world Askeladd wants to build is realist, I figure. Everything I know about Askeladd. He didn't let somebody
that was the whole
slap
hell
him
dream
around.
sequence right there, right?
That was him coming to terms with himself. We all know the people in his dreams aren't real. People that die don't exist anymore, Griff. Wake up.
No, I saw it in a dream. That's my source. I'm putting it into my essay here, alright? But the primary, or like the first thing said over here as well is like, Thorfinn is the only person who probably could have done this with Canute.
Sure. I mean, having a connection to the person you're talking to doesn't make everything you do right. It just means that you have a connection, and that connection means something to the other person.
Yeah. But like Thorfinn helped Canute grow. Canute specifically spared him in the first place. And overall they actually have like a slightly better understanding of each other than like it first appears, I suppose.
God, what was that movie where Jamie Foxx is a musician, homeless musician that lives underneath a turnpike?
I am not sure.
I'm just trying to think of a viable example of this, and obviously the real world isn't where my mind goes. Obviously, my mind goes to other fiction. But although that movie could have been a true story, I can't fucking remember what it was about. But the idea being is that somebody saves him, gives him a leg up to get discovered as a musician and turn his whole life around. So it's not laughable, the idea that a crazy person could come to you and as a prominent figure in society and inspire you to be a better person. So I'm obviously not saying that. I just don't think you need to take away all the life lessons of the weird guy who's in your friend group.
Well, I'm pretty sure Canute has not learned all the other lessons from Thorfinn, like sacrifice your entire childhood for revenge. I don't think he followed through on that one.
Honestly, I'm not even considering Season 1 Thorfinn anymore. All the shit I'm talking about is shit from Season 2. Like, just because you witness the abuses of the world around you doesn't mean that you have to become savior of the world. And he's not even trying to be that. He's just, I don't want to inflict the harm on others that I see them inflicting upon me. And cool, I mean, works for the Amish. But my point is that your own well-being should take precedent. Like in when we played Ironclaw, right? What's the very first goal of every Ironclaw NPC?
Survive, right?
Correct. Thorfinn lacks that goal.
I think he does want to. That's why he says, I'm going to walk away from all of this.
Yeah, after I get 100 punches to the head by the bear killer. That's not survival.
Alright. Well, before we get into like the 100 bear killer punches again, let's go ahead and go to the next comment here with Francis from the episode The Two Paths, who says, I get what you're saying, that the world we live in is cruel and pain is natural, but it is also true that a lot of people in history strive to be better than that, and most of them didn't succeed. But to imply the effort they put in is meaningless is ridiculous. Canute was touched by Thorfinn and halted him, albeit briefly, from going down a terrible and very realistic path. That's what makes it resonate with me. Canute wouldn't have become a monster or anything like that, but why not strive to be better in the face of reality? Why not put your trust into people? Sure, he might ultimately fail, but Canute's actions will touch somebody. This, how humanity has progressed at all, and we are not perfect now, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't just give and say, well, life is pain, might as well be an asshole. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah, good TED Talk, Francis.
So you froze for half a second while saying that, so it threw me off for a bit. So I looked confused during that. The second time was due to that freeze. The first time was due to the comment.
Right.
By the way, thanks for
I
being.
saw you reacting. I know what you're thinking.
Thanks for being a patron, but I want to say that your comment here reads as somebody who didn't listen to the whole conversation. I did not say it was meaningless. I in fact said at some point during the last episode, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not a worthy cause and that you should do it. I literally tried to clarify my statement somewhere in there. So, I just, again, just as before, sorry, I was about to call the guy Ryanbacher, the first commenter. We have it on an image, so it's really hard to read in small text, and I got giant screens now. I'm not trying to wave that in your face. These are all hand-me-downs. My point is that if it's not a world you yourself would want to live in, then it's not worth doing, right? If you're trying to make the world better for everyone else, great, good job. Make sure it's a world that's good for you, too. And I don't think Thorfinn is doing that in his present situation due to the realities of the world that we live in.
Look, as that person, I gotta say, it's like, wait a second, I matter? Or what about other people?
Look, America is filled with people that have savior complexes, and I don't mean like the shit they're trying to put on Mr. Beast. That's bullshit too. I'm talking about the common example is firefighters, right? A lot of firefighters die. Sorry, it's not savior complex, it's hero complex. A lot of firefighters die trying to be heroes instead of following training and doing what's. It's important that a firefighter stays alive as much as the person they're trying to save. How many people is a firefighter going to save in the span of their lives versus who knows? Who knows? Maybe they're trying to save another firefighter. I'm thinking of every possible scenario that my words could be twisted.
We're like a Batman. If you kill one person, you're a killer. But if you kill like 5, you've actually reduced the number a whole lot. Haven't you? Kind of territory.
Well, that's Joker. That's Joker context, right?
Yeah.
You kill one person, everyone's up in arms. They kill a dozen, it's just a statistic. Or something like that. But my point being is that we have a hero complex going on, and people want to celebrate the self-sacrifice of others, and it's like, but they didn't have to die. It's like, I feel like we could have gotten this path with more episodes, obviously, another season of trying to convince Canute to see him or something. But I will never agree that in a show that has not full realism, dude can jump a football field, but in a world that's based on ours, that getting punched 100 times by a man who says his fists are strong enough to punch bears to death is the plausible and most realistic way to get this done. It feels like a path to suicide, and if your arguments are all gonna be, I don't care if you commit suicide, then I'm not going to agree with you.
obviously, all the rest of Thorfinn's friends came by and said, "Thorfinn, why are you doing this?" And we did have that moment for you.
I feel like every comment I make is as a backtrack on my own. It's like, I am also pro-choice, and I do support your willingness to exist or not exist. That's completely on you. I just also don't feel like it's the way to go here in this story.
So, we have one more comment here from Yamachuchili DDW, from also the episode 2 Paths. Author thinks about all the things you point out before creating the story. Vinland Saga is fascinating because we already know that Thorfinn's plan will fail. So it doesn't simply end up being a hypocritical story. Manga is almost at the end, and just now conflict has arisen between Thorfinn's group and the Native Americans.
Spoiler.
And Thorfinn has just made a decision to leave Vinland, admitting that the emigration was a failure.
Wow, huge spoiler.
You know what? Yeah, I know. I was in history class years ago. I already read this story, Theta. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, on one hand, this is a story about a specific group of people, so us knowing that this happens to them, we don't know that. For all we know, these are the people who go to Native America. That's not what I meant. Go to America, Vinland. These are the people that go to Vinland and naturalize. There were plenty of people that came over and just fucking lived amongst the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm. It's but I think like the comment at least brings up a good point. Trying your best and failing isn't hypocrisy at the very least. Thorfinn is sticking to everything that he does, even if he fails, even if historically he fails. He is at least tried, and he's trying to put out a good example. It's still a good path for him to try to pursue. You won't convince anyone if you never do it, right?
I mean, well, you probably can. There's a lot of teachers who couldn't do, and all they do is teach. That's actively trying to convince people to do things you couldn't yourself do. So, also, I don't so much like the idea of author thinks about the things you point out when they created the story. Sure, Orson Scott hates gay people, wrote gay characters. It's very confusing. But literally, I can't remember his name. I think it's Bean in Ender's Game. He's very clearly a gay character. Orson Scott Card campaigns against gay rights.
I'm trying to remember if I remember the character from Ender's Game. I think I've only seen the movie, so he doesn't like feature probably.
Well, I don't remember. I think he comes in the movie, but in the book, he's one of the kids that helps him when he gets to the academy or school, whatever it's called. I think he specifically shows up. God, it's been so long since I've read it. And the one that's most in my mind is the sequel, when they go to another planet and he's having the conversations with the...
where Ender goes on his apology tour, right?
Yeah. But no, like, Bean has his own side stories where he, like, becomes very important. But no, he's, like, one of the kids at the school who's, like, Ender's, like the trio, the big trio of his school adventure. Bean's one of those guys.
Okay. Doesn't come to mind, unfortunately. Man, it's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, well, see,
it's been a decade, probably.
Like, I'm remembering the shower assault when they come after him, and I'm... It's been a while, but I think I read the book, like, 3 times. But I think I read them all, like, over 20 years ago.
Right. Ender's School is terrible. All of them are, honestly.
Well, I mean, they're in a fight for survival, so they're literally doing everything they can.
But let's go ahead and talk about what happened last time real quick. Last episode was The Two Paths, where Thorfinn realizes that he cannot convince Canute to alter his path and states that he will travel far away from the reach of the king. Canute has been amused, but he accepts Thorfinn's choice and abandons the ways of his father. He surprisingly alters his plan to forcefully seize the farms. He even withdraws his troop from England, avoiding a potential uprising and earning the respect of the English nobles. Meanwhile, Thorfinn invites Einar to join him to find or create a land free of slavery and war, and honor Arnheid's memory. As they sail away, Snake finally announces his name, Rold, son of Grim. As the residents of Kettle's farm till the soil, they reflect on the great impact the small man Thorfinn has had on their lives.
Oh yeah, Kettle survives and has a redemption arc and blah, blah, blah. Fuck that guy.
Thorfinn's still 5'9", ain't he? I keep forgetting every now and then. He's just canonically small.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. What are you shaming Short Kings? What are you doing here?
I just, every now and then I forget, unless he's like placed explicitly alongside another character.
How tall are you, Griff?
5'11".
Well, I'm 6'1", so I guess we're nearish the same.
I know, you gotta like bend down to talk.
Although I realize now there's a lot of people out there, like I literally just watched a meme video earlier about a 5'7" guy logicking his way to being 6'1", Like we all wear shoes, right? So we got to add 1 inch to that, and you know. But I mean, way back before I ever heard any of this short, not women not liking short men nonsense. So I was always like,
Yeah.
I'm 6'1", at least according to the camera leaving the 7-Eleven, that sort of thing.
There you go. But I believe we were basically leaving off on Thorfinn just going home, and well, I guess we're just gonna kind of see what happens there. Everyone's old; it's been decades. He's become a worse and then better person.
Well, it really
Uh,
depends. He's become a self-detrimental person, at the very
he
best.
he has become a person way more interested in kindness and doing something constructive. So he has something going for him.
You know,
He's only been through years of trauma.
argument that comes to my head now is that Thor's was that guy, except that Thor's would also fight when necessary. His
Right.
father had already learned all these lessons and was acceptable to the world around him. He knew what
Right,
the
we had
world was about.
Regenbacher point that one out actually
Yeah,
too.
that's what I'm saying, though. It's like that is a logical stance his father made. And then, much like the entire season 1, Thorfinn fails to learn the lesson his father tried to leave him. It is, in
Well,
fact, just
he's
a
got another 2
stain
seasons
on
for
his
that, right?
memory. What?
He's got another 2 seasons to learn it, right?
Well, apparently not, since we really just got spoiled to that bit. It's one thing
Well,
telling us that he actually fucking goes over there, but I guess telling us that he also leaves, you're like telling us the end of the story. Here, let me tell you what happens at the end of the manga since it's wrapping up. Oh, Yvonne.
alright. But I think we're basically ready to see that. Everything kind of got wrapped up in the plot last time, so we're just kind of dangling. I guess let's just see what happens, unless you got any other thoughts.
Snape kills Dumbledore.
Oh, yeah, and Rosebud was their sled.
His sled, not their sled.
Alright, but before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and comment down below to feed that algorithm. On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this unfiltered, uncensored, and uncut, as well as some early access stuff, you can check it out over on Patreon. It's just $5 a month, but no pressure. It's old sports channel, just a little bit extra.
Click the link down below, join the Discord, and join us for our next show, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, as voted on by you. Well, maybe not you specifically, but one of you. At least one of you did.
So here we are, one last peaceful intro for this series.
Season. One would assume, as popular as this has been, but we'll get a third season eventually.
But ostensibly, it will probably be more violent next season.
That's what people told me. Right? They said they would probably enjoy season 3. Not that I enjoy violence. I just enjoy realistic interpretations of it, right?
Right.
There's only one good version of the pacifist on the battlefield that I can remember, and that was Hacksaw Ridge, I want to say was the movie.
Okay. What was that one like?
Oh, that's the real story of the guy who was a pacifist who still wanted to serve his country, so he joins the military as a medic. And all the hassle that everyone gives him for not being willing to shoot anybody or anything like that. And now all the people he saved on a Hacksaw Ridge during World War II.
That sounds fun.
Like, everyone pulls back and he stays there and pulls people that are injured and dying while still being shot at by the Japanese forces who will shoot medics. Here's the show.
Back to the ice. All I can think is Einar's gonna hate it here.
Oh, he's had nowhere else to go, so...
Yeah. Yeah, not on the glacier.
Well, no, they were looking up at the crags of the actual land.
昼がこう短くちゃ作物は育たないな。
冬だからな。夏場は逆にとても昼が長い。条件のいい場所では夏場に麦作をする者もおるが、まあ島民の腹を満たすには程遠い。
じゃあ島民はみんな羊飼いや牛飼いなんですか？
いや、職人や漁師もおるよ。島民みんなで。
Well, ironically, we know there's some slavers here too. They showed up in season 1, beating a guy with chains.
トルフィンの村もそういう村だ。
Just describing how Thorfinn's village is just the worst one.
ってお前ここに住んでたんだろ？
いや、だって子供の頃だったから。
I was just the worst kid.
それから
I think he was the worst.
He broke a kid's arm with a wooden sword when they were playing. Do you not remember the kids were even confused by it? Because we were just playing, and he went on us.
うわ、なんか急に怖くなってきた。どんな顔して母上や姉上に会えばいいんだ。
Yeah, that's gonna be a hard one to explain to them.
観念せ、この宝刀息子め。ようやく。
I mean, this is how I wanted season 1 to end. Just with him many years younger.
Imagine season 1 Thorfinn, hot off of going crazy of never getting revenge on Askeladd, returning home. No lessons learned.
No, he would have learned lessons. I don't think he had to go through years of slavery to learn the same lessons.
Never ending up farming, never talking to Einar.
トルフィン。村のみんなが待っとるぞ。
Hey, you're that punk who hurt my hand when I was a kid.
誰？全然知らん。ユルバに弟なんていたか？じゃあ俺の名前を言ってみな。
え？
Ah, you don't remember.
How the fuck would I remember that?
ファクシ
間違えた。
You got
いいぞこいつ。フンジバルか。
ー？いや、だから仕方ないじゃんか。年月経ってるし。おっちゃん。
しゃあねえ。ユルバに合わせてみっか。おう、そうだな。
Got him in the weird place of, if you didn't let him, he could kick your ass. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, never mind, he wouldn't.
Not anymore.
He's a character that lacks agency now.
Oh, the sister who inherited all the super strength. That's right.
もう大丈夫だよ、ユルバ。お金も返してもらったし。
おい、ユルバ。やっと連れ帰ったぞ。トルフィンだ。
トルフィン。トルフィン。
姉上。
Thorfinn, you never brought those sheeps in before you left.
姉上。
I mean, I think it's more of a
なんてやつは。
Thorfinn died a long time ago
い
situation.
や、ほら、ユルバ、お前の弟。
Also, rightfully, they should blame him for her dad's death, right?
あ
A little bit.
そういえばそんな名前。
A little bit. I went hard in season 1 explaining why it was his fault.
俺ら生きてたんだよ。前にヨークで会った話はしただろ
じゃあなんでそん時連れ帰らなかったのさ。
う。それはいろいろとあってだな。
母上と私を元気づけるための作り話でしょ。
I mean, if he didn't try to pass Bug Eye off as Thorfinn, I would believe him in this situation.
He might have more success with Bug Eye, honestly.
おいこらチビこらレフさんたぶらかしてどういう魂胆だ違うなんかあるなら言ってみろよこら
ややこしいことになったな。自分が自分だと証明するのって
They're doing
難しいもんだよ。
wobbly eyes.
The outright goofiest the series has been for like 48 episodes.
家に帰ろうドルフィン
I mean, to be fair,
分かってもらえるさ
he abandoned his home for so many years. It's not so wrong that his home also abandoned him.
Mm-hmm.
仕方ないよな。俺だって姉上や母上の顔を忘れかけてた。
Because you had the choice, and you chose not to go home.
当然だ。
いいじゃねえか忘れてても十何年さまよって生きて親の顔を拝めるんだ幸運に思わなきゃバチ当たるぜ
Take it from me, Thorfinn V2.
分かれて今どこにいるかもわかんない
Thorfinn and the better Thorfinn.
羨ましいぜお前がなんなら俺が代わりに親孝行してきてやろうか
いや、すまん、ギョロ。ありがとう。
Old lady's keeping busy.
ばあちゃん
Yeah, there's even more siblings now.
トルフィン
おふくろ何をてめえこれ以上ややこしくすんな
It's perfect.
いいじゃん
I love Bug Eyes. The best character in the show. Best character in season 2.
Just stands it up there, too.
トルフィン
I mean, he got one shot and he fucking took it.
母上。
こんなに大きくなってそっくり
Yeah, looking side by side, how much worse he looks than Thor's.
親子なのね
Thor-
Thor's, like, way
Thor's
more
had the
square.
fucking Superman head hair twirl thing going on.
The coif.
母上。今まですみませんでした。
おかえり
Not feeling bad for Thorfinn right now, because you remember that old woman that he got killed? And her daughter? The ones that sacrificed them everything to help him when he was lying dying on the road?
I'm sure that's exactly the same guilt that he felt throughout the entire season.
Cool. Cool. Does it bring them back to life, though? Does guilt bring people back to life, Griff? I don't
It's
care
so
how
touching
many...
to have them actually reunited.
I don't care how many nightmare hells you dream up for yourself. It doesn't bring people back. I'm an unforgiving
It
asshole.
brought Thorfinn back.
ドルフィンが
No, it didn't.
父ちゃんおかえり
He's got our kids!
Who's this stranger? Get him
トル
out.
フィン。俺。
You know, for a second there, I thought he was Half Dan. We haven't seen Half Dan since episode 2.
ドルフィン。すまなかった。
Still waiting for Quarter Dan to show up.
トーレズさんを。
Oh, he was one of the guys on the boat.
Well, he said because of us.
あれ。
It's because of him.
バカだったんだ。
さてと
Literally 2 seasons to resolve Thor's death.
エイナルさん。
ああ今夜はこれでおいとまします。レイフさんたちが5時の家に泊まってるんで俺もそっちに。
ここに泊まればいいじゃない。ちょっと狭いけどなんとかなるでしょ。
いやでも
And my daughter could use a new husband.
兄弟ならあなたは私の息子よ。ここはあなたの家。遠慮はいらないわ。
It's also so weird going from like everything the past 2 seasons to this place where everyone is just too kind.
もう聞いてよ母上。あの凍結商人。
There were kind people all over the place in this show. Thorfinn just fucked them all up.
Right, but there's like no conflict out here, like at all. It's entirely just family drama. And this!
ユルバ待って。本物よ。本当にトルフィンが帰ってきたのよ。
本物？え？まさか嘘だ。レイフさんの作り話じゃ。え？本当？
Well, I mean, I said from episode 1 that Ylva was the best character.
本物のトルフィン？
ただいま、姉上。
トルフィン！
姉上。
Slap down. Ah, there it is.
Like I said, he abandoned home.
Oh my gosh. All this way just to die.
Would have been a lot shorter of a story had Ylva gone instead of Thorfinn.
Again, she's got the super strength.
大丈夫だ。エイナル。俺は殴られて。
Bear Puncher got nothing on Ylva.
Oh, he's dead.
一発かよ。
The one woman stronger than 100 Vikings.
やっぱり母ちゃん最強だ。
Ah, the snow harvest is really coming in, huh?
I was saying that guy was moving at like 5 frames a minute.
So, which of those kids is going to jump onto Thorfinn's boat?
And pick a fight with the Native Americans.
Yeah.
I was just literally thinking, such is the world that we live in, that nobody had any fucking questions to ask.
Yeah.
トールズの死からケティルの農場を立つまでの経験を淡々と要所のみをかいつまんで話したがその憎悪と闘争死と破壊絶望と後悔
It's only 24 hours of 2
悲
seasons.
しみと
It's
再
fine.
生の歴史は聞く者を絶句させた
Why would it leave your mother at a loss for words? Well, maybe because you're a son. She's experienced more than that with Thor's, though.
I mean, it's still a terribly tragic tale.
絶望の中で死んでいった奴隷たち。
I don't know, Griff. There's this really thick book that Snake owns about a guy with a more tragic tale than that. I'll leave that for the commenters to figure out.
俺の罪は重い。行かなきゃならない。平和の国を築くために。
And thus the racism of the Vikings. That they don't think that the native people there can figure it out.
おやりなさい。母上。この世界から逃げ出したいと思っている人は大勢います。私とトールズも戦士の国ヨムスボルグから逃れ、この島へ来ました。人々が戦争や奴隷制から逃れ、どこまでも逃げて水平線の彼方まで逃げ切ったその先で、あなたは平和の国を作って待ち、その人々を迎えるのです。
Oh.
Yeah, but not according to DDW.
そのために生きなさい。
So I'm not going to be able to forget that now. It's in here.
トルフィン。
ありがとう、母上。
にしてもフィンランドに国を作るか。
大規模な事業になります。
Imagine having the balls to name this show Vinland Saga.
2 seasons of the prequel.
And then naming the last episode of the first season the end of the prequel. Guys, we're gonna need 50 episodes to explain why our main character won't fight people. It's going to involve a lot of fighting.
Season 3 is going to be the fundraiser season. They're not going to go to Vinland.
Now they got to build the boats to get there, right?
そんなうまくいくの？
大丈夫よ。
We already established this place doesn't have trees, which means we gotta get the trees from somewhere else. Ah.
Yeah.
Shame it cost you everything. You probably turn that into a plowshare, though.
まったく本当についてっちゃうとはね。
姉上。
Sister's gonna be like, it's your fault.
ごめん。
I mean, there's obviously two camps, right? One where he didn't go and didn't experience all this shit, and people survived who didn't die, who died because of him. And then there's the other camp that's just wrong.
変わり者だったからね。
Because honestly, if you have to have experience to learn these lessons, that means everybody has to suffer in order to figure it out, which means that you then need people to be horrible to one another. Whereas if you can be taught these lessons, Thors could have fucking taught him had he not gotten on the boat. What a shit guy. I hate him even more now. If he hadn't gotten his father killed, he could have been taught these lessons.
He taught, like, he has no enemies.
Like, yeah, the guy from episode 1, huh? Yeah, Half-Dance a pretty smooth talker when it comes to deals. I mean, unless the point of Season 2 wasn't to show us Thorfinn, but was to show us Olmar instead.
This is the Olmar show.
I'll cover it in a second. I'm hearing music playing. Or is that wind?
That was just wind.
Olmar
Yeah,
might have been the whole point.
Though.
I think Olmar might have been the entire point of Season 2.
ねえ。
ここからも逃げたい人はどこに行くの？
I want to stab people like you.
I'm sorry, you a
Thorfinn.
hypothetical representation of me or one of the kids from this village? Never mind.
分かってるんだ。
I am going crazy. No, I just got away from here.
Just think about it, Thorfinn. 300 years from the time you do this, freeways.
Amber waves of
Sorry.
grain, am I right? America! I'm pretty sure I'm hearing music now.
Yeah, now we have the actual music.
Now the bird from the opening? No. Are we doing it again? Okay, no, it's flashback, thank God.
Yeah, these.
You remember season 1 ended with Einar on a boat, so I thought we were just looking at someone else on a fucking boat for season 3.
Right.
Oh, please give me an Askeladd prequel series. At least that's a story I can get behind. That's a much better looking Thorfinn.
Yeah, it's like completely different now, just changing up the hair, right?
Well, there's something in characters that I like. It's a regal look, and he has more of a regal look to him. Like if he had changed places with Canute.
Yeah, actually, he looks a little Canute-ish.
Okay, to my point.
Okay.
What I was saying before was that Thorfinn didn't get on the boat. Thor's, all that shit wouldn't have happened. And Thor's could have just taught his son the lessons that he had learned. And Thorfinn wouldn't have had to experience them himself. And to my previous point, if you have to learn these lessons through experience, then the world is required to have horrible people in it in order to then have the good people learn the lessons, right? So, season 2 for me then turns into a story more about Olmar, who had to be taught the lessons and was not somebody who was going to accept them at first. Right?
Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Yes, he's the story of somebody who has to be taught the lessons, and not the story of somebody who goes off to experience an adventure from childlike wonder. Or I don't know, I had it more poignant in my head when I thought it, and then we had 2 minutes of emotional build-up, so kind of got thrown off.
You can draw a lot of parallels between Olmar and Thor, where Olmar is like an older version of what if Thorfinn never left home and ended up with that same kind of idea or personality. This haughty, I still want to be a warrior thing, I gotta prove myself, but now he has even more backing behind him. That's it?
Is it? Okay. Sorry, sometimes I sit on the white screen for a minute. There's been plenty of shows that I thought nothing was happening, and then something happens, so... But yeah, I mean, God. 50 episodes just to realize that they only needed one.
Well, no, you still had to tell the story.
No, it's 50 episodes to say that the story was pointless. Thor's already had the message. Thor's had the experience. Thor's just had to tell his son. Thorfinn was a fucking idiot. I'm sorry.
Thor's was going to die.
Kill me in the comments if you must. But no, Thor's wasn't going to die.
I
Thorfinn
gotta go back
got
to our
him died.
original sin here.
Thorfinn got him killed. Remember, Thor's wouldn't have had to have died if he wasn't dying to protect his son.
Let me hear me out here. Thor's was going to die no matter what. Not necessarily in that ambush, as we saw he had that kind of handled. But other people already wanted him dead for the betrayal he did, and he was specifically going out to do a fight, and they were probably going to let him die out there too if he didn't die there.
You're
the
saying...
entire point of getting Thorfinn out here was for people to settle their grudge with him and try to kill him.
You mean Thor's?
Thor's, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
You're saying that the greatest warrior of all time wouldn't have been able to survive the very same shit that his untrained son was able to do.
I would probably say that people would try to put him into a terrible position to have that happen to him.
Nothing that was killing Thor's. Thor's is the fucking Thor of this show. He's literally a letter off. And I guess that's one letter away from fucking godhood, because that man was a beast. And I don't think he was going to die. I think Thorfinn got him killed by him having to sacrifice himself to keep his son alive, with a deal that was barely even upheld. But the idea that Thor's knew all of this, had the same kind of mentality, and just didn't get the opportunity to teach it to his son, thus forced his son to go through... I guess they're doing a whole history repeating itself motif. But the
you actually even have like an additional parallel there between Olmar and Thorfinn, where both of their fathers are supposedly this great warrior, where for Olmar, like, that's a lie, kind of. And for Thorfinn, it's like obviously true. if Thorfinn, even if Thor's didn't die and returned home, the same personality or ideas would still be inherent to Thorfinn. He never would learn the lesson.
I don't know why you say that.
Oh, because ultimately he would want to go do that anyway. The same way Omar still wants to prove himself.
Do you understand that your point is that nobody can learn things without experience, and thus the world needs horrible people to create the good ones? If you can't experience... You're saying that the world is going to naturally create warriors who want to fight, and that the only way to become the good person that Thor's and Thorfinn and the people around them become is then to experience that fighting. So only by God, you are the Bible. You are just the fucking Bible. You're the whole reason why people
jumping around.
No, I'm not jumping around. You're the reason why people debate free will, right? And it's why would there be evil? Why would evil even exist?
That's fair.
Why would evil?
I'm the person who makes people debate free will.
Why would evil exist? Why would God even create evil if we can all be just good? And it's like, because good doesn't exist without evil, and free will is given to you so that you can figure it out. And it's so much that you're laying down the facet that Thorfinn wouldn't believe his dad. He would still want to go out and fight. And thus the act is, you will only learn all these lessons that Thorfinn experienced via the experience, which means that you have to have all the suffering along the way that wasn't directed at Thorfinn. All the deaths, everything lies at the feet of teaching one man a lesson.
Thorfinn says it himself at some point. Like, because he's in a society that values warriors, if he grows up in that society, he's going to value that. He needed to end up against society in order to change his perspective. Otherwise, he would keep trying to be what society wants him to be, which is a terrifying warrior pirate, right?
Let me ask you this, Griff, put you on the spot. When you meet a U.S. veteran, do you thank them for their service, or you tell them to fuck off because they're a warrior society?
I have been getting calls like every other week for asking for donations to various police organizations. I'm just like, no, I gotta tell them to fuck
In
off.
fairness, I said a United States veteran, not a police officer.
Depends, war shouldn't happen, obviously. Anyway.
Well, I mean, if you want to live in the society that was created by it, so...
I mean, actually, that's actually a reasonably good point. People in the United States society are primed to want to do that, and are influenced to do so, even against better judgment, even though it's a terrible idea, even though they will be discarded and misused and everything at the end. It's not something people should do, but you need to find a way to break them out of that or put them against society to consider to not go with society.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Veteran Affairs does not handle either of those things very well. Veterans or their affairs.
Yeah.
But, yeah, my point stands, though, is that you're indicating like it's a thing of the past, but very clearly that's been humanity from time immemorial. Time immemorial being, 1400s, I believe, is the actual meaning of that phrase. Which was, kings and queens fighting on the fields of Europe. So...
And here's what I would say Vinland Saga wants to say, which is that it is worth trying to make a better world for other people, to do something constructive, and to not go for violence as a solution to all of your problems, and to build a better society, and that it's not hypocritical if you fail. It could even be perfectly fine if you fail in the end.
Thank you, Griff, for reading the commenter's message and trying to beg their love so that they don't come after you with the negative comments.
Give me your likes, feed them to me.
I, on the other hand, will have listened to your actual argument, Griff, which was that people can't learn these things except by experience, which means that everything that happens has to happen for a small group of people to learn a lesson, to then become what you're trying to talk about. But the rest of it all still has to exist. The realist world still has to exist so that a small group of holier-than-thou people can be taught a lesson.
Let's go back to Plato, who said, you cannot force someone to learn.
Oh yeah, Griff? Let's go back to Socrates.
If they don't want to,
let's
go
back to Socrates, Griff, who will always ask a question.
What do you know about questions, Theta? Since you seem to be such an expert about asking questions, I thought I should ask you. What is a question?
I don't know, Griff.
You can do that style all day.
I don't know, Griff. What makes you ask me that?
Well, you seem to be an expert on the subject. You're speaking so much about it, so me, an idiot, should go to you, a wise man, about this sort of thing.
That was just a raised inflection, Griff. That was not a question. You failed already.
Sorry.
This is literally such a popular thing that they turned it into a Whose Line Is It Anyway sketch. So... my point stands, though, is that quite clearly that is the inference of the show, that if... You know, this show would have been better if it was held in an American high school. Sorry, you're right. I do just jump around sometimes. Let me rephrase. That the obvious problem here is that education is not a thing that can be handled well. That if Thors could have just taught Thorfinn everything that he had learned, we'd be well better off and wouldn't need 2 seasons of the show. But that's never going to happen, because to your own point, you said, no, Thorfinn was raised to and would have expected to want to go out into war and fight people, which would mean raises the issue of education is the problem, that we can't educate these kids into the experiences that we had. They have to experience it themselves, every new generation. So thus we set it in American high school, we turned it into some sort of 9 o'clock on a Thursday drama. Call it Dangerous Minds or something, I don't know.
Thorfinn was a young punk who wanted to be like his father, who was a U.S. veteran or something. I don't know.
Until a bored housewife, probably, I don't know, white, we'll say, goes into the project.
Oh, gosh. Alright, well, this is all solidly terrible, but I guess,
my most disappointed thing from Season 2 is the fact that Thorkill didn't show back up.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, he showed up like very briefly, didn't he? For like a couple of seconds.
We had one episode where they covered the fact that he was given control of some area. By the way, now that Canute is like fucking giving up his territories left and right, probably not great.
No, this is perfect, actually. So, they've laid out that their next conflict is getting enough money to do this project. So they need to petition people who have money, and you know who has money? Thorkill.
I don't know, man. This isn't playing out well at all. I think the damning thing about that part is that if they only go to Vinland, we know we're not going to see any of it. We know that Thorkill is going to come for Canute's head or some shit, and it's just never going to be on screen.
Well, at least now we know for sure Canute's not going to Vinland here, so we can go ahead and just write that off, I suppose.
You know, there's a Thorkill the Tall who was a Viking chief.
Yeah, that's probably the
Born
who's
late
based off of there.
1950s in southern Sweden, died after 1023. How did he die? Led the invasion of England. That seems about right. And Kent, yeah, that's our guy. Thorkill and his men helped resist the invasion led by Swen, which is our dead king.
Yo.
But Swen eventually overcame the resistance and became king of England. Thorkill allied himself with Swen's son Canute, who led a new invasion of England.
Mm-hmm.
He rewarded Thorkill with the earldom of East Anglia. In 1021, under unclear circumstances, Thorkill was obliged to flee to Denmark, where Canute later made him earl. Thorkill the Tall disappeared from the historical record after 1023, which is two great opportunities. One, he fucking goes to Vinland, or two, we start a whole new show where he's a fucking time traveler fighting the greatest warriors in history. You don't write something as mystical or as vague as disappeared from the historical record. You fucking jumped into a TARDIS and now is fighting the greatest warriors of all time.
I'm just imagining
Gilgamesh.
Doctor Who drops by, points at Thorkill and goes, "You're big and strong. Come with me. We're fighting Daleks today."
Well, I just recently started trying to rewatch from where I left off. I can't remember where I left off, so I picked up the episode where he's literally like in an English court where he rides in on a tank playing guitar.
So much for preserving the timeline, right?
I don't remember. I think it's something like he sees his death coming or something, so he doesn't care anymore. He's just like whittling his time away. But still, disappeared from the historical records. That just fucking gives you a hand wave to do whatever you want with the character.
Yeah.
Maybe he disappeared from the historical record because he wasn't around anymore, because he sailed off to Vinland. Seems unlikely, given the fact that we want to create a peaceful world, and that's the last guy we want to bring with us on our pacifist adventures.
Well, it could still be funny.
Yeah, that's what the show. That's what the show goes for. Hilarity.
Funny,
Just a bunch of gags.
For this last episode, a little bit, right?
Killed your dad. Joke. It's a joke.
Again, the very ending of this is increasingly anime, right? Where they're doing the exaggerated family drama and stuff. But I found it funny. It was just a good time, really. A good way to relieve the tension that's been looming over the entire series.
Look, according to some commenters, I've already fucking ruined the show, so I'm not taking the punches back. I'm saying it might seem like I'm being argumentative for argumentative sake, which is 100% to my personality, but these are truly things that I believe. That the theme of the show, having been pointed out to me through the actions of Omar, through Thorfinn, the fact that he fucking got his dad killed, is the fact that, and the whole running away during season 1 that we saw that Thor's and his wife did, had to get away from Thorkill even, was that you can't teach people the impetus of your experiences, and that they have to experience it themselves, which makes really the message pointless, because you yourself in the story are saying no one's going to listen to it. And granted, here we are 1,000 years later, no one fucking listened to it. And hey, there was a guy I hear, it might be fictional, 1,000 years before this story, who told a similar message. And I don't think anyone's listening to him.
Well, we can nail that one to a cross for later, I guess.
We'll put
we'll
put at least, Griffin, 3 pins in it.
So once we go watch Jesus Christ Superstar later.
Oh man, I do love that movie.
But for,
it's a good musical.
For right now, for this series, I definitely like this season. This was the complete turnaround season for me, where the first season was dragging on with Thorfinn's never gonna learn. He's never gonna learn. He's making the worst choices. And here we see everything we wanted from him. All of his character development coming through here and ending on a bunch of really nice solid notes. an outlook that is one that is can be learned from. Like you would obviously say like don't replicate Thorfinn in his 100 bunches, please don't. But I think we can still like use this. Like this is a good place to maybe watch and like try to learn a lesson. This is good media, I think.
On a breakdown of the show, I will say that season 1 was full of frustrating moments centered around Thorfinn, but it was picked up by interesting side characters. I will say that season 2 was a bunch of emotional moments centered around Thorfinn, but picked up by a bunch of interesting side characters. And I would be hard-pressed to say which I thought was better, because one had askeladd and the other didn't. But the ensemble of characters in season 2 kind of builds itself up to be as strong as one askeladd, so it's difficult. I mean, it would be clearly season 2 would win if askeladd had fucking survived and was in the show. But
yeah,
dead askeladd in hell just doesn't, in one episode, does not make up for a season of askeladd in season 1.
It is hard to top askeladd and like this semi-heroic trickster hero kind of deal that he has going on.
Descendant of King Arthur.
Yeah, the centering of his story is that he too is obsessed with vengeance and has ruined his own life to do so, and even died to do it.
I mean, he's so good, we made him an honorary third member of the show. He's been in the middle of us for like half the season.
He hasn't had much to say, unfortunately.
No, just that sly grin of his.
We can read everything from that. But I still like the secondary cast that we got in the second season, and I think Einar was a great duo to pair up with Thorfinn, especially for like the sheer comparison of like what their lives are about and how they feel about it.
Individually, none of them compares to askeladd. That's why I said, as a group, they amount to an askeladd.
No one will ever be as cool as askeladd again, unfortunately.
In this show, probably not.
In this show, unfortunately. But we are gonna get a whole bunch of new characters in the next season because we're going to a brand new place. We get to see who Thorfinn actually sets out with. It's obviously going to be Thorfinn, Einar, Leif in his dying moments at this point. Is he going to bring some of the family with him? Some old friends? What are we going to get here?
And I will point out to those in the commenters who might be saying that I'm just incapable of critical thought or don't get emotional shows about war and such, head on over to our reactions on 86. I do very much get it. I fucking cry during that show because, it's just written better. God, I'm not going to win anything today. You better wrap it up for us, Griff, before I just start...
Alright, before
I just start nailing myself to a cross.
Yeah, before we destroy the whole channel here, let's wrap it up for today. This has been Vinland Saga Season 2. We'll see you all whenever they do a Season 3. Meanwhile, go watch everything else that we got going. Legend of the Galactic Heroes, I believe you mentioned, so go watch that next.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I don't know why I interrupted. That's right.
So, for right now, I'm Griffin, that's Theta, and we'll catch you next time. See you around. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stone-Faced Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below, and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?